Hello kids, welcome to Leeds Online School. This is English Literature Form 4. Under Modern Drama sector, we have to cover up the drama and Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley. So, according to the scheme of work, we have to cover pages from 25 to 27 for the third term. Let me introduce myself to you all first. I am Mrs. Charitha Samarathunga from Matara branch. There are several objectives that we are going to fulfill while analyzing the drama. The first one is to understand the plot summary clearly and to understand the key points the writer tries to highlight and to clearly define the development of the plot and to understand the effective ways of writer's use of characters to explore his themes and to understand the language techniques the writer uses and to explore the main themes. Before going to the lesson, let's have a quick look at the background of the drama. About the writer, we know that the writer of the drama is J.B. Priestley. So if we are to learn a little bit about him, he was born in Bradford in 1894, and when the First World War started, he joined the British Army, and after he's done with the war, he completed his degree at Cambridge University. His subjects were history and political science. So he was always interested in this historical events, and his plays always had this conflicting views of capitalism and socialism. The pages that we have to cover for the third term are the end of the Act 1. So I thought we'd just go to a quick look at the key points of Act 1. So can you remember what happened in the previous pages you learned? Yes? What can you tell about the structure of the play? Is the audience distracted? Are we distracted from anything? No, our attention is always focused on one thing. And we don't see another subplot. It's always the same plot where we are not distracted. Okay. Then, what is the other thing we can identify is that the location or the setting. Does the setting change up to now what we have learned? No. It's the same location. What is the location? What is the setting? Think to yourself. Yes. It is Berling's living room. Okay, but even though the location doesn't change, actions continue, right? Actions happen. And how does the Act 1 begin? We are introduced to characters. Yes, and then we saw a very happy family. What is the reason for their happiness? Why are they so happy? What do they celebrate? They celebrate the engagement of Sheila Berling and Gerald Croft, and we see that they are looking forward for a brighter future. And towards the end, who entered? Who enters their living room? Who enters? It is Inspector Poole. Yes, and what news does he bring? He brings out the fact that a girl named Eva Smith is dead. What is the reason for the death? She has committed suicide. And you will see that in these relevant pages, we see that Berling and Sheila are involved in this. Okay? Okay, let's have a quick look at the summary of Act 1. So we discussed the key points, so which is actually the same as the summary. Now try to recall to yourselves what happened. Incident by incident, can you draw a mind map in your mind? What happens first? Yes, what happens first? We see that Sheila Berling is engaged to Gerald Croft, and the family is celebrating the fact that the daughter is engaged. So they are kind of having a celebration at home. And then what happens next? Yes, next we see the inspector entering, and with his arrival, what is the news he brings? He brings out the fact that a girl called Eva Smith is dead due to suicide, and then he has a discussion with Mr. Berling, which reveals that Mr. Berling once employed Eva Smith in his factory, and then he had to fire her. Now, can you remember the reactions towards this from the other characters? Gerald, Sheila, Eric. We see that Gerald tries to back his father-in-law, but being his Mr. Burling's son and daughter, Sheila and Eric, they act differently. They react to this differently. They think that father should not have done something like that. Okay, as I told you, page number 25 to 27 is the ending of Act 1. So let's have a quick look at the summary of these pages. In here we see Sheila explaining or accepting her meeting with Eva Smith. So and then she reveals that she has gone to this shop where Eva was working as a sales girl, and when she tried to put on a dress, she felt that Eva looked better in that dress, so this made her angry and jealous. So she acted rude towards Eva, and she being a regular customer in this shop, she used her power to fire Eva Smith from that shop. So now she accepts that the fact that she has met her. So Eric makes a comment on this, and he says that it was very rude of Sheila to do it. Then Sheila gets very angry. The difference that you see between Mr. Burling and Sheila is that she feels sorry for what she did. She regrets what she did. And then Inspector reveals that after this incident, Eva Smith changed her name to Daisy Renton, and he leaves the place, leaving Gerald and Sheila in the room. So after he left, Gerald and Sheila's conversation revealed us that Gerald was seeing this girl last summer. Okay, now we have read the pages. Now we have got to know the flow of the story. So let's see what writer wants to convey through these communications the characters make. In page number 25, we see Sheila admitting the fact that she was a part of this firing of this girl. So we see her admitting her share of this girl losing her job, and her guilt makes her feel worse about Eva Smith's fate. As in, like she was a share of, she understands that she was a part of her journey to committing suicide. And on the other hand, we see that Sheila using her power to make this girl lose the job were very petty and very thoughtless. It was useless doing that. I mean, you see that she felt that Eva was looking better in that dress, so it's not a reason for her to make that girl lose the job. And we see that she was a regular customer there. It was a very high shop, so normal people can't go and shop there. So the money, wealth, the prominence and high economic position in the society, so because of these reasons, she could have a very significant influence on the life of another person. So she was able to make somebody lose the job. Okay, now Sheila has explained her share of this case. So in page number 26 to 27, we see the other character's reaction towards what she said. What can you guess from the fact that she accepts, yeah, she has done something like that? What do you think? Why do you think? What made Sheila to act in such a manner? What is the reason? There are several reasons actually. You will be revealed it in the other acts as well. So as a girl who is from a very high family, and she has the share of her beauty as well, what do you think? Why do you think that she made her feel? What is the reason that she made her make Eva Smith lose the job? Yes, think. Yes, mainly jealousy. And we can tell that what she wanted to do was, like, she was hurt because the girl looked better than her in that dress, so she wanted to cause more pain to this girl because she felt bad. So what is the best thing she can do? The best thing she can do is to make her lose the job. Eva Smith, for a girl like Eva Smith, the job is so valuable because she is earning her life from this. She's earning her living from this, right? So the best thing Sheila could do was make her lose the job. And what can you tell about this inspector's procedure? We have discussed it earlier as well. So he follows some protocol. He follows a specific procedure in questioning these family members. So this procedure makes various personal conflicts of the family come out. Right, so we see little by little now when Mr. Burling was investigated, he accepted the fact that okay, this girl was working in my factory and that he fired her. So what are the reactions you find in the family? Gerald was backing the father-in-law, but daughter and son, they were like, okay, no, whatever the father did was not acceptable. So we see inspector uses this protocol, the procedure, to bring out the personal conflicts within the family. So in these pages you see one of that. It is the Gerald having an affair with Eva Smith, which proves his unfaithfulness to Sheila. So we see at the beginning of the act, they were very happy couple, they were engaged, the family was totally happy, they were so much in love. So but now it is weakened. The bond, the strong bond that they shared in the beginning of the act is weakened, their engagement is weakened. And on the other hand, Sheila's character is very outstanding, is because now she understands the logic of inspector. That's why she says, I think he knows, fool. Right, so he understands this logic, and she understands the fact that this investigation is going to be very exhaustive, very tiresome, and that the inspector is confident in what he is finding. Now we have understood what the writer wants to convey through these characters. Let's have the main themes the writer discusses here. So these are the main themes you find. The first one is blame and responsibility. So one of the major themes the writer discusses in this whole act. So here, how does the writer show this blame and responsibility? So Sheila, the main part we discussed was Sheila's revealing her part of this Eva Smith's life. So we see she accepted the fact that she was rude to her, right? And then public versus private, the amount of the things that the private knows and the things that that's within the family, and then wealth, power and influence. So through Sheila's character, through their wealth and power, Sheila was able to fire the girl. So these are the main themes the writer discusses in these pages. Okay, now we have done the analysis and we have learned the main themes. Now we have an idea of the plot. So since we have come to the end of the Act 1, I thought we'll go through a quick analysis of Act 1. We'll just remind ourselves what we learned earlier. So the main incident which happens in here in Act 1 is an inspector calls and says that a girl has died. What type of an account the inspector gives to the family? Yes, it's a very blunt account of this girl's death. What is the name of the girl? Eva Smith. And then the language the inspector uses and the language that the Burlings used earlier was totally different. Why? Earlier it was a very playful, polite atmosphere at Burlings. Right? Mr. Burling was very polite because it is his son-in-law, he's from a good family, so he wanted to show off his status. But now what is happening? Now the inspector brings out a very harsh language, very official. So it contrasts. And on the other hand, the protocol, the procedure the inspector uses in investigating this case, he shows different photographs of the same person to each character, not the same photograph, right? And the main theme discussed in this incident is family life. Okay, the next important incident here is Burling sacking Eva Smith to protect his business. So we see that the way that inspector asks questions make Burling, it gives a Burling a false sense of being charged with the death to make him responsible. And on the other hand, the way that Mr. Burling explains how he did it and the way that he speaks about his employees suggests that he sees the employees as a cheap labor. Cheap labor means, how do you understand? That means if he can get them to work for less, then he will do it. Right? He wants the opposite of social responsibility. If he makes them work more, then he has to pay more. But he doesn't want to do it. And at the same time, previously discuss a political element here. That is, he's positioning, through the inspector, he's positioning the rights of the workers against the interest of the businessman. So businessmen want to make the laborers work more and pay less. But the rights, if we think from the laborers side, it's unfair for them. So here we see that political element, and on the other hand, we see Eva describe this girl, Eva Smith, as a lovely, good-looking girl. So, so this through this description, this Eva is brought out as a attractive hero. So this makes the bullying look worse. And the main theme discussed in here is social responsibility. I have explained you how it happens. Okay, the next thing which happens is Sheila getting Eva Smith sacked from her next job. So what is the main reason that made Sheila do it? What is the main reason? Yes, mainly because she was insecure and she was jealous that she felt like Eva was laughing at her. And on the other hand, being a regular customer at Millwards, she used her influence and power to make the girl lose the job. On the other hand, despite all these things she has done, we see that whenever inspector investigates her, she felt bad about what she did, right? And her response to the news that inspector brought shows that she's a forgivable character. And then Sheila and Erica brought out as sympathetic characters because their responses to the inspector's story, when they heard that heard the death of Eva, they gave sympathetic responses when we compare it with the other family members. And on the other hand, parents asked her to leave the room when the inspector started the investigation, but she stays in the room to hear the whole story, because even though parents didn't want a young girl to be involved in this, she stays. So this is in here the writer brings out one major theme, young and old. And the next incident which happens is Gerald confessing to Sheila about his affair with Eva Smith. So the first thing that Gerald wants Sheila to do is what? Keep it away from the others. He wants not the inspector not to know about the affair. What is the reason? Why do you think that he wants to keep it as a secret? Now he knows that inspector, he kinds of understand that he also must have a share in this committing of suicide. And here we see towards the end, Sheila and Gerald gets more suspicious and anxious, because now Sheila understands the logic of inspector and she understands that it is going to be exhaustive. So, and on the other hand, inspector is brought out as a character who is capable of reading their expressions. That's why did he just leave the two of them in the room and went away? Because here inspector wanted Gerald to confess to Sheila. And the main theme discussed in here is men and women, how men react to something and how women react to something, and how men, their responsibility in their relationships are brought out through this. Okay, so now we have gone through the text, we have read the pages, we have understood the act 1, we have done a full analysis, we remind ourselves of what we learned earlier. So it's time for us to see whether we have really got the knowledge. So I have attached some other questions. There are, I think, nearly 15 questions in here. So you can read them and answer the questions. So some questions may need explanatory answers. So in such cases, please write an explanatory answer. In this page also you find the questions. I think you are capable of answering the questions, because I think I was able to make you understand the play properly. So let's have a quick look at the summary of what we learned throughout all this time. So we learned about the writer mainly, what the background of his life and how it influences writing, and we learned some key points of Act 1, the main incidents, and then we learned the main idea, the plot of the relevant pages we have to cover for the third term, and then we did a very deep analysis of the characters, the communication that they did, writer's use of setting and all. Then after that, we ran through a very quick analysis of Act 1 as a whole of the previous pages we have done. And then we discuss the major themes the writer discusses in. Okay, my dear kids, we have reached the end of the presentation. I think you were able to understand the analysis of these pages, and as a whole we have discussed the Act 1. So I think you were able to gain a good idea. So if you feel that you didn't understand something and if you need further clarification, please don't hesitate to email me. I have added my email address in there. So good luck with the questions. Hope to see you all again.